با درود فراوان به شما عزیزان، به یکی دیگر از برنامه‌های ندای درون خوش آمدید. من دکتر فوژان زینی هستم، روانشناس، و همونطور که میدونید این برنامه است راجع به مسائل روانشناسی، ولی جمعه ها با آرتیست ها و بازیگرها گفتمانی داریم از دیدگاه‌های دیگه و نه تنها درباره هنرشون بلکه درباره خودشون. امروز شانس اینو دارم که دو تا از بازیگرانی که در یک فیلمی که تازه امروز قراره که روی اکران باشه توی لملی به اسم استپینگ های، که کارگردان اون هم یک ایرانی هست به اسم هنری چار. کارگردان این نمیتونستن امروز با ما باشن، روزهای دیگه خواهم بود، ولی این شانس رو داریم که با دو تا از بازیگران این فیلم قراره گفتمانی داشته باشیم، نه تنها راجع به فیلم بلکه راجع به خودشون. در قسمت اول قراره که با خانم پالمر دیویس که بازیگر هستن، خواننده هستن، رقصنده هستن و کوریوگرافر و حتی شوهای خودشون رو می‌نویسن رو گفتمان داشته باشیم. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Palmer. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you for accepting my invitation and coming in.
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Must be so exciting to have your film be
Premiered tonight.
On Lemley.
Yes, we open tonight at the Encino Town Center, Lemley, and we run for 2 weeks. It's really exciting to bring this beautiful dance film to Encino and to all of Los Angeles.
Palmer, you are Seema in this film.
Seema Sadri.
Seema. So it's so funny because when I saw the trailer, I haven't seen the movie yet. I'll be going this week with you. When I saw you, it was Seema. Like it wasn't, to me, it was not a non-Persian actor. It was Seema. So I know that it takes something from you to play a character from completely another culture and to be so believable.
Absolutely.
That's good acting, obviously, to be so believable. But what does it take from you to completely put yourself into another culture?
Well, I was honored to receive this role. It's a dream job to be able to use my dancing and acting and such a wonderful character. So it was a big responsibility. Yasmin Vine, who plays my sister, we spent a lot of time over coffee talking about her experience. She is from Iran. She moved here. Her character is very similar to Seema, and her life is. So I really learned about the culture living in Iran and also the Iranians living in America, the cultural differences, family, how the family lives. One thing that's I really had to understand in the script is in American culture, once Americans turn 18, they go to college and they're off. And if you come back home, it's like, don't you have a job? What are you doing living at home? And to really understand my character, it was very important for me to understand that the children, you know, until they're married, they live at home. The family is the most important thing in Iranian culture. So to really understand where Seema was coming from, where her parents were coming from, was very important.
What can you take from the Iranian culture as you played and you were with the Iranians and learning from them to take it into your own life in a sense, where you could grasp it and say, oh, I like this about this culture?
Well, the chai, first of all. You know, I loved our little tea breaks. One of the biggest things is, and what the movie is about, is bringing cultures together through dance. And although there are differences, obviously, within our cultures, the Persian culture is more subdued. They are more in control. One of my acting notes is don't smile too much. You know, keep her, she's happy, but don't show it too much. And I'm very effervescent and, you know, gesticulative. So I did have to, you know, keep myself subdued. But yet she's a passionate woman, this Seema. She is passionate about her dance. So that's one of the differences, but really the similarities between the cultures is what I took home and what I think our audiences are going to take home. That even though we have maybe different beliefs and different religions or politics, we all value our family. We all value tradition and culture. And when it comes down to it, we are really so similar.
Isn't it true?
It really is true.
There's so much similarity and, you know, ounces of differences, which they're all very beautiful. Let's go watch a little bit of the trailer of the movie so that you guys can see a little bit of the movie and then we can talk about more about the movie. بینندگان عزیز اجازه بدین که با هم دیگه مقدار از این فیلم رو نگاه کنیم و دوباره برگردیم و با پالمر دیویس صحبت بکنیم راجع به فیلم Stepping High.
Your name?
Seema Sadri.
Cue music.
Seema, how old are you? 32. Thank you for coming.
Why all these rejections? Start looking for a different job.
Get a real job.
You have the credits, the degree, you'd be perfect.
Principal Hilda.
You must be Seema. You like kids?
I've never worked with kids before.
Good. Then you don't know what you're in for.
Let's see what you got. Showtime. I wanted to show you that there is a world of dance beyond ballroom.
Modern dance can get a bit racy.
Dance isn't just entertainment. Dance is a language to address issues, make statements, dissolve borders, force social change.
I see your point. Seema, this is a conservative school.
Look, I'm not going to teach afraid.
This woman, she's corrupting our kids every which way. She's undermining our traditional values, and we will put a stop to this.
Attention! This class is canceled.
No.
This is not over.
You ready?
6, 7, 8. Let the show begin!
We're here with Seema, with Palmer Davis as Seema. Palmer, what I got from this film also is interesting because although we're talking about a Persian family who supposedly are more traditional, more afraid of being out, or they might not have, they might have some biases about dancing and a woman dancing, and then the age of 32 getting higher a bit in that role.
Yeah.
But somehow in the film also we face the American biases and what anyone in the community that you might live in might have some obstacles or might have struggles to open themselves up and have so many issues with openness and expression.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. It does show both cultures having the same biases towards one another. The school, which is predominantly a conservative American school, seeing the belly dancing. Oh, the belly dancing, that's so lascivious. Well, the other kinds of dancing, it's all a part of our culture.
So is the Argentinian tango.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of the point. Dance is an expression of oneself, also of the history of a culture. And we are who our ancestors were. And, you know, we're becoming such a global country. We are also connected. It's really important to realize these differences and that they're just expressions of ourselves. So it does expose the biases of all the different cultures. And that's, you know, puts it at a level playing field. Nobody's the villain here. Everybody has the best intentions. They are expressing their true beliefs. And they are good, you know, good intentions, but in the end, it's like, open your eyes. The world is changing. Accept one another and accept yourself.
One of the beauty of this film that I experienced as watching the trailer part and talking to Henry Char, the director, had to do with recently, obviously, since after 9/11, we have portrayed Iran, Middle East, Iranian families many times in the movie or the television industry from the way the men have abused women or their anger or biases or prejudices and all the areas that were more into the negative light. And this film, for the first time, somehow is creating more of the positive side and the generosity and the love between the father and the mother and the and their daughter, and the way that the family works in the support of each other, and how that also, and maybe showing that, again, different cultures also have the same biases. It isn't just in one movie showing one group having the biases. And not that we don't have domestic violence and all of those issues in many countries, and so we have it in Iran also. And hopefully one day these messages from the movies will also stop that in Iran, in Middle Eastern country, or here, or in the Western countries. But it was sweet to see this angle.
Well, the sensationalism in the media is the negativity, is the terrorism, is all that, putting people in fear. We're trying to fight terrorism, but yet all our media does is perpetuate fear, and that's terrorism. What Henry Char has done so beautifully is portray the majority of the population, which is families and middle class and people who are just trying to make a better world and who are investing in their children and trying to grow and develop. And that's, this film is the majority of the people out here. We don't have the majority of terrorists and, children and wife beaters out there, and that applies to both cultures. We have violence here as well, obviously in America, but the majority of the people are good. That's why our world continues. Even if it's 51% is good, the good is the majority, and that's
not wanting to teach fear was actually part of the screen, and one of the lines that you said that I don't want to
teach afraid.
Teach afraid. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's part of the fear of, my father is wanting our family to assimilate into, the community, but yet by being safe, we're not really assimilating. And Seema, because she has been raised in America, she's like, I'm going to go out and do it, and I don't want to be afraid. But she walks a fine line because she wants to please her parents, but yet she has a passion, and she is determined
which that's also a cultural piece. Which in the families, the Iranian family, they really the concept of wanting parents' approval and pleasing them is part of being a good daughter or a good son or a good family member.
Yes, and it applies here as well. I know I chose dance. I went to college, very similar to Seema actually. I graduated UCLA, and until I really started making money and getting Broadway tours, and my parents weren't quite, this is my daughter, she's a dancer. And it's the same thing. You want to be proud of your parents, and that's a parent ego that is attached to their children. And, as parents, we have to let our children blossom and become their own people. And sometimes it might not look so good on us, but that's our job, to let them go and become independent, wonderful people. And if we've done our job right, they'll find their way through it. I'm a parent also, so.
And a teacher.
And a teacher, yes. I teach from all the way from kindergarten kids up to seniors. I teach seniors, 105 is my oldest student. We do wheelchair dancing.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God, that's awesome.
We do disco, and, we even, oh heavens, we have a good time.
And Broadway. Tell me what you've done in Broadway. Did you sing and dance and
I
act on
sing
Broadway?
and dance. I was a Radio City Rockette, and I did some national tours of Broadway. I got to be in the Academy Awards a couple times dancing.
Nice.
And some wonderful, wonderful opportunities to travel. And I've written and produced my own show called Suburban Showgirl. And this is a tour de force, one-woman show. And it's actually starting right when my movie ends. I open the very next day at the NoHo Art Center, June 28th. And it's a story, again, of motherhood and career and choices, acceptance, and in your darkest day, what do you do? And, well, you have to see.
Let's together actually see a bit of that. So we'll be right back.
spend your whole life getting ready for this moment. Preparation, anticipation, sacrifice, excitement. You never really know what's going to happen. How will you react when the moment comes? The one moment that will change your life forever.
Places.
Definitely be inspired. When I was watching this trailer, I got this point of how much we as a woman do this, where we're constantly changing role and have to put a lot of hats and have to be inspirational on top of it. And now also give a message to the world, because not only was I watching the trailer, Seema was giving this message and taking a stance, but also in your other roles, it keeps showing that somehow there's a teaching moment and there's a taking a stance with all of these different kind of hats and changes that are happening. And you do that also in your own life with all the different hats you play.
Most definitely. The best role model is just living. How you live your life is what your children are going to learn. And that's why we constantly, as moms, we have to do a little check, a little inventory of like, hey, what am I saying? How am I acting? What am I doing in my life? And I've always loved performing. I love creating. I love telling stories. And the best way to teach is to storytell. That's why I'm in this business. Suburban Showgirl is a story about professional, successful dancer dealing with marriage and children, keeping the career going, and facing, just like Seema did, the inevitable getting older within the business. But at the heart of both of these characters, I play Wendy Walker in my show, Suburban Showgirl. They are optimistic, and they pull upon their training. Dancers are so disciplined. From age 7 when I started, there is a discipline, there is expectations. And you get better if you work at it. And in my character, Wendy Walker, she's used to, if I work at it, life will work out. Well, we don't have control over all of life. And there's some point where you have to let go and let life happen. So that's a big lesson for my character and for myself in life. We can try to work and train and make opportunity and make our children be successful and love us and become what we want them to be, but at some point we have to let go and just let things happen.
And when you let go, usually things happen.
Things do, and that's when the mystery of the universe comes in. That's when things that you're not expecting to happen in life. That's when you let in your spirituality, or you again, the unexpected.
What's in the future? You have June 22nd. You have today, Stepping High begins in Lemley Town Center in Encino, and then you have.
We open June 28th. We run clear until August 4th with Suburban Showgirl. So I do that at night. During the day, I will be choreographing a musical for children once on this island. And I will also be running a summer school for children at the same time. And promoting the ultimate goals for my show is television series, of course.
Nice.
And to continue my show nationwide. And when I'm ready, hand it over to other people to do my show, and I can sit back and be at home with my kids.
Awesome. I would love to see all of that in action and happening, and hopefully having you on my show and being a part of your success.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
بینندگان عزیز، برای پیام‌های بازرگانی میریم برمیگردیم و با یکی دیگر از بازیگرهایی که در استپینگ های بازی کردن به نقش پدر سیما برمیگردیم. با ما باشین تا چند لحظه دیگه با شما خواهیم بود. خرد زندگی، مجموعه‌ای از سیدی های صوتی که شما رو به اعماق وجود خودتون میبره تا آرامش درون، خواب آسوده، رهایی از احساساتی که شما رو آزار میده و با بدن خودتون متصل میکنه به زبان فارسی و انگلیسی. این مجموعه با صدای دکتر فوژان زینی شما رو هیپنوتیزم میکنه و کلمات تلقینی به کار رفته میشه تا شما رو سریعتر به اهداف خودتون برسونه، با موسیقی که به شما آرامش میده و با تکنیک مانو بیت. برای سفارش این سیدی های صوتی با دکتر فوژان زینی در تارنمای foojan.com تماس بگیرید و یا با شماره تلفن 818 648 2140 818 648 2140. Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist, speaker, and an author. I would like to tell you about a seminar, The Power of Two, that I'm doing with Behnam Bakhshande, which is a wonderful coach and a relationship and a business coach. This seminar is about you in your relationship, the most important aspect of your life, your intimate relationship. In this seminar, you will get how you have been behaving, how you have been thinking, your belief system, and your behaviors within your intimate relationship that has created the result that you have gotten right now. And will give you a lot of tools, amazing keys in how to create a successful relationship and how to sustain and maintain it. I hope you enjoy it. به برنامه ندای درون مجددا خوش آمدید. مهمان دیگری که دارم جناب آقای امیر کورنگی هستند، بازیگر هستند و تدریس میکنن، استاد دانشگاه هستند که به بازیگران دیگر بازیگری یاد میدن. خوش آمدید.
خیلی متشکرم از لطفتون و میخواستم بعد از عرض سلام به بینندگان عزیز از شما تشکر بکنم برای موقعیتی که پیش اومد در اختیار شما باشیم امروز.
خواهش میکنم. میدونم که راحت تر هستیم که انگلیسی صحبت بکنیم و به خاطر اینکه کارتون بیشتر توی فضای انگلیسی بوده
عذر میخوام از هموطنان عزیز، ولی شرایط اینطوری بودی که من دوره بزرگیم و دوره کاریم همیشه به انگلیسی بوده و کم با ایرانی کار کردم. این که معمولی میتونم صحبت بکنم ولی راجع به کار معمولا خیلی راحت ترم به انگلیسی صحبت کنم.
درست میفهمید. بینندگان ما برصد در امریکا زندگی میکنن و کسانی که در کانادا هستن و صدای ما رو هم از رادیوی کانادا میشنون قاعدتاً چون اینجا زندگی میکنن با زبان انگلیسی راحت هستن. So we're switching. You have the role of the father of Seema.
Yes.
And it was so funny where I was talking to Henry Char and I said, Seema is coming. And I said, what about her father? And so I said, you know what I mean. He says, yeah, I know what you mean. So it's interesting how much when we see actors that are so much in the actual characters embedded in them, that in the audience's landing, it lands as they're the same.
That's right. That happens quite often, doesn't it? No, yes, I play Farid Sadri, Seema's father. And it was interesting, this distinction you're making between sort of the role and the person. It was fascinating for me. It was very, when Henry asked me to do this, first of all, I went into it with a lot of enthusiasm, actually, because it was an interesting role. It was a fleshed out role.
What do you mean fleshed out?
It was fleshed out, it was positive. It had psychological depth, it had social depth, it had psychological depth. The whole film, actually, I feel, has a lot of depth in that sense. And it poses a lot of very interesting questions. So I was quite excited about getting involved in it and working with it. And Henry was great in the way he worked with us, because he really did want to, as it were, mine the text and discover things in it and see what our impressions of the material is and what we can bring into it individually, what we can offer from our own experiences into the material. So that was a very liberating artistic process. Which I found very joyous, and of course the cast were lovely to work with. The father, I had to, because I'm not that sort of a father. I mean, I have two sons. I have a 28-year-old and 23-year-old at the moment, who were, my wife's British, and so they were brought up in England, and then they've been living in the States for a while. And I've never been like that. I've allowed them to be what they want to be artistically. They're both very artistic. I mean, one has gone into nutrition, but my eldest son is a musician and film scorer. And in my time, when I first went into acting in theater, my first major was pre-med.
Wow.
This relates to the film. My first major was pre-med because
that's where you were supposed to be.
You were supposed to be a doctor, you're supposed to be a
Yes.
lawyer, or you're supposed to be an engineer, or all of that. And it was difficult. It was difficult for my family to accept it. Although they were eventually very supportive, initially it was difficult, and it was out of the right sort of concerns. I mean, I completely understand the concerns.
You have to go. You have to be a success with no support. Until you're a success, well, the support comes in.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So it was very close to my heart. This issue, this subject matter was very close to my heart. So I had to kind of dig in and refer to my memories from
your own parents
various people. That's right, or various families that had observed this sort of situation, So that was quite fun to work with. So I had to kind of reverse my own sensibilities. It was the total reverse of my own sensibilities.
Another concepts that were coming up for me when I was watching you is my guesses, right? I'm not in your career, so you correct me whenever I'm kind of like going off. But
go for it.
My guess is that when we're attending to a role from completely a different culture,
right?
Because it's a blank concept, we walk into the role almost grasping whatever it is and can kind of like dissociate from who we are and create this other piece of us that is just grasping whatever that is. It could be the accent, it could be the facial expressions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How is it, and I know that you've done that many times, how is it to be actually playing your own culture and yet reinventing yourself within your own culture, since it's different? So it's, it's like you gotta take off something first, which has been embedded in you, and then to be something else.
Sure.
Is that accurate?
Of course, it's very accurate. I completely understand this. This is one of the issues that has come up with me before. As I don't know if I've mentioned or not, but I've been teaching for a long time. I taught theatre and acting in England for sort of over 25 years at MFA level, MA level, and BA level. And one of the issues that comes up with most actors is it's sometimes more difficult to play closer to yourself.
Exactly.
When you play, it's too close for comfort.
Yes.
You don't quite feel like you're playing a character.
Yes.
As I said, what helped me in this scenario was, yes, on one level it was difficult because, it was closer to myself in the sense that it was a father, I've got kids, it was my age, a father, Iranian, etc., etc. But because it was the reverse of my personality, I think, I hope, that was the challenge. That was the extra part that sort of gave it that sort of that flavor in terms of, as an actor to work with. But nevertheless, I do agree. I mean, it's fun to actually. I mean, the point of departure and arrival in characterization is always you, anyway, because you have to shine through the character somehow. Otherwise, it's disconnected.
It can't be a robotic concept.
Well, otherwise it becomes mimicking, becomes an imitation, it becomes an impression. It's not real acting work. So you've got to be in there somewhere. But you've got to go through a process of transformation, basically, to create this other role. And yes, that involves, as you mentioned, sort of accent work or physical work that's different or whatnot. And you look at yourself, you think, okay, all right, I'm not playing myself. But I completely agree with your point. It's a tough one because you could switch back and forth to yourself throughout while you're working with the characters very close to you.
Why would you ask the Persian community to go and watch this movie?
Sure. Well, I think what Henry's done brilliantly in this film is that he's explored the differences between tradition, culture, and dogma. But dogma is developed eventually out of culture that has lost touch with its roots. So we have people that consider certain things, oh, well, this is sunnati, it's sunnatemos. This is our tradition. Well, no, it's not really our tradition. It's some of those issues, some of those opinions, some of those prejudices are really, if they're negative, they're not part of our tradition. Our tradition is open, it's all-encompassing, it's been for thousands of years. And those have been developed later. It's a distortion of culture. I think it's only distortion of culture that creates the differences in people, because I think culture can be a very all-embracing thing. It's a positive thing. People love to sort of embrace other cultures. It's fun. And so what I think he's done is distinguish between tradition, because they have a tradition. They sit around this family, the Sadris, around the dinner table, and they talk to one another and they eat together. You see several scenes in the film where it mentions, I'm looking at Palmer over there, that we mentioned, and we remember that, and it was an enjoyable part of it also from the cast point of view. They got a sense of, oh yes, this is what happens. We sit around the table and eat together and discuss our issues with one another. That's a great part of the culture. It's a positive side of it. When it comes to killing other people's ambitions and aspirations, or your children, because you feel that you know better, that comes from something else. That's a distortion of culture. The fact that certain people feel that, and he poses that question, I mean, that the father doesn't feel that art is a legitimate, valid profession to go into. It's coming out of a fear.
Definitely.
I think a lot of people replace their fears or what they do as from a point of fear with culture.
And also I think that the cultural perspective, many times when we're looking at a culture that is more independent, a culture that becomes more independent, the children or whomever has a particular career does not necessarily shine or have an effect in the other people's destiny or the way they live or the way that you view them or their ego status. But in cultures that are more familial, such as the Iranian culture, Middle Eastern cultures, even Far Eastern cultures, because they're so much more interdependent and some of them more dependent, some interdependent and some dependent, every member of the family shines or take away the shine from every other person in the family. So that's why it also becomes such a more of an issue in the Eastern society than maybe in the Western.
Absolutely, and it's very difficult to live with those values here. I mean, some of those values are great when it comes down to family support. Of course, that's a wonderful thing to have, but when it actually restricts you. And cages you, I think it's a difficult thing to deal with. And this film certainly deals with that. I think Palmer's character, Seema, certainly senses that she's sort of trapped in this thing, and it's got no relevance to now or her life here. And I don't think it's sort of conducive to growth, really, for children of sort of our culture.
Let's together watch the trailer.
Of course.
This time in Persian, and we'll be right back with Amir Korangy.
Your name?
Seema Sadri.
Cue music.
Seema, how old are you?
32.
Thank you for coming.
Why all these rejections? Start looking for a different job.
Get a real job.
You have the credits, the degree, you'd be perfect.
Principal Hilda.
You must be Seema.
You like kids?
I've never worked with kids before.
Good. Then you don't know what you're in for.
Let's see what you got. Showtime.
آفرین سیما جان.
کاری رو میکنی که دوست داری. هر کسی این شانس رو نداره.
I wanted to show you that there is a world of dance beyond ballroom.
Modern dance can get a bit racy.
Dance isn't just entertainment. Dance is a language to address issues, make statements, dissolve borders, force social change.
I see your point. Sima, this is a conservative school.
Look, I'm not going to teach afraid.
به هر حال این اولین کار جدی توه. سعی کن نگه داری.
This woman, she's corrupting our kids every which way. She's undermining our traditional values, and we will put a stop to this.
دخترم با اومدن یه رئیس جمهور سیاه‌پوست به کاخ سفید تو فکر کنی نژاد پرستی در آمریکا عوض میشه؟
Attention! This class is canceled.
No.
This is not over.
She is from Iran.
Excuse me, Pastor. It's actually pronounced Iran.
You ready?
6, 7, 8. Let the show begin!
Amir, it's interesting that there is such a sense of strength
Yes.
in showing that the way that the tradition or the Iranians are, or they take a stand for who they are in this movie, which has been very different in other movies that have come about this past and recent years.
Sure, sure. So you mean basically in the terms of the father's character, I suppose, in this case, because he's the one that is very traditionalist in this. Yes, there is, and I think that's important because I think that still exists. I think to a great extent it exists, and I think it's holding on to a sense of identity. I think it's desperately holding on to a sense of mistaken identity, that my identity is sort of completely associated with and linked to all of these values that are whole, that are no longer valid, really. I think this is a huge issue in this film. I mean, it makes everybody miserable. It doesn't help anybody.
Right.
I mean, we're sitting around having an argument about nothing. It's ridiculous. I don't want to sort of reveal what happens eventually in the
Right.
film.
No, they got to see
where
it.
it goes.
They got to go
They have
tonight.
to see it and see what happens. But basically, she gives her dad a great deal of grief. I mean, my character had a full head of hair at the beginning of the film, and
see what happened afterward.
This is what happens. بچه‌ها این بلا رو برای سر آدم میارن.
I think everybody can connect and relate to that. You have been an actor in theater and then
That's right.
movies.
That's right.
And you also have taught theater and film.
Yes.
The difference?
Oh, huge difference.
Yes.
Huge difference.
Yes.
I originally went to, I went to school here. I went to drama school here. I went to high school, and then I went to George Washington University, Catholic University, lots, and then I got my master's in England, all of that. But mainly I studied theater. When I went to school, they really didn't have film and television acting program.
You're not that old.
So what I
Come
did,
on.
I was doing. No, they really didn't. They didn't have it in those sort of programs, in the traditional conservatoire drama school programs or university programs. There weren't any. There literally weren't.
You're talking about teaching in the university.
I'm talking about teaching in universities. There weren't that many. In Los Angeles, yes, but where I went to school, and in England here. And in England, they still resist that to a great extent because theatre acting is at the top. That's the one that means you're an actor.
That's what I was going to say. Is it still the concept that if you really wanted to be a great actor, that you had to learn theatre before you would do that?
I don't believe in that
you
any
don't?
longer.
Okay.
I don't believe in that any longer, but I do believe that if you want to sustain your life as an actor, and if you want to be more expansive in terms of the range of roles you can play, that theatre acting certainly helps. So that was my tradition. It was mainly theatre, and I did some theatre here, and then I went to England and I did theatre, and I've directed as well. I'm directing something that's actually on at the moment on Santa Monica Boulevard. So theatre is still a huge part of my life, and I'm steeped in that. So I remember first time I had to adjust and adapt from from theatre to film acting. It was a huge adjustment to have to make. because I hadn't had training in it. So I ended up on a film set having to learn absolutely firsthand. Oh, I'm doing too much.
Yes.
And my facial expressions are too much. My voice is too booming, in this moment because I'm declaiming certain things. And not that truthful theater acting needs to be like that, but nevertheless, you're playing out to
on an
700
audience.
people, 1,000 people, whatnot.
And somebody at the end has to hear you.
Absolutely.
And
With
see
the
you
camera,
and
you're
capture,
mic'd and the camera comes to you. And a lot of it is about reaction shots, it's about toning it down, it's about allowing the camera to come and discover what's going on inside you. So fundamentally, it's similar. And that's the joy. Once I discovered that, I thought, oh, great, this is only technically different. I just have to adjust my physical habits.
Right. You use my own skill,
Absolutely.
the same skills, just the
Same
physical.
skills, yes.
Do I express it extrovertly out there, or I express it minutely?
I bring it down, that's right. So it's about reinterpreting those moments, those storytelling moments that kind of gradually unravel your character and your character's journey to the audience. It's kind of allowing that to gradually develop. So those adjustments were made. Hopefully, I'm still learning.
And you are you or have you played in a television series?
I did several things. I've worked for BBC in England. I've done stuff for HBO, for Granada TV over there. And the TV series here. I've only been in Los Angeles for a year, but I've been very lucky to have been able to do 2 roles, apart from directing and teaching that I do. One for NCIS Los Angeles, which is a guest starring role with LL Cool J.
Awesome.
And the other one was a smaller role, which was in Scandal, the TV series for ABC. So
I've
I did
heard
ABC and CBS.
amazing things about Scandal.
It was fun. That was a very small role, but I was very pleased with the role in
Yes.
NCIS.
Awesome. I think we have a clip of it, right?
I think you have a
All
short
right.
clip of it.
Let's go see the short clip.
Sure.
This is the work of the Taliban, isn't it?
What makes you say that?
Because I saved your life. After you left our village, the Taliban came. When they discovered you'd escaped, they killed my family.
Why have you never told me this?
It was my decision to grant you Loche, and the burden of repercussions are mine alone. The taking of one innocent life is like taking the life of all mankind.
And the saving of one life is like the saving of all mankind.
Know this, Sam. I made the decisions I believed in my heart to be right. Allah will forgive me. Amir was the last of my family.
No. Not the last. Thank you.
Please pass on my regards to your wife.
I will. You need to talk to her, saying she's quarantined herself with Teddy buys us some time.
So what happened? I decided to rewrite it. What? The manual. I decided to rewrite the manual. It's long overdue. I don't understand. I know you don't. But no buts. I did it. Done. Did you check with the controller or the operations manager? Didn't need to. Didn't need to. Didn't need to. According to the new procedures, I didn't need to. According to the new procedures, which you wrote without proper authorization, you didn't need to. Now you've got it.
Will you be there?
I wouldn't have asked if I didn't.
یک دونش خیلی ابهت داشت. ابهت. What I wanted to ask you is, do you find yourself being casted for particular roles, or are you able to grasp different kinds of roles in different versions?
This is the interesting subject. In theatre, I didn't feel that as much. Their sort of range of imagination for casting directors and theatre people and directors was much wider.
Right.
So I've done Shakespeare, I've done Chekhov, I've done Molière, and sort of various roles in contemporary sort of drama as well. But when I started working in film and television, all of a sudden it sort of got very narrow. Right. The margin got very narrow early on when I was younger, mainly, again, terrorist or very sort of, as it were, a businessman that's on the wrong side of the law, all of those sort of things.
It's the obohat concept, I think.
Maybe. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll tell you. It started to vary. I mean, I did the Iranian ambassador to Ireland, and I did a couple of ambassador roles, 2 or 3 ambassador roles, businessman, that type of thing. Then, of course, the father roles started to come in, and I'm sort of looking forward to the grandfather, great-grandfather roles.
It seemed like you've played one of those.
I did one. I was cast, and quite often I was always cast to play older.
Yes.
I'm not trying to reduce my age here, but I was once cast opposite another gentleman who was 15 years younger than me, but I was playing 15 years older than him. Just because of lack of hair. This is another one of those
just the wisdom that comes through.
The prejudices that casting people have.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of my show. Please go see Stepping High today. It starts today, and it's going to be at Lemley's Town Center in Encino. It's going to probably have 2 viewings every day. For about 2 weeks.
That's correct, and we'd love to see you there.
Are you going to be there today?
I am going to try and go there today.
Awesome. So he'll be there today, and Palmer will be there today. So if you want to meet with them and get their signature, that's the time to do it. It was a pleasure having you in my show.
It was a total pleasure. Thank you.
It's awesome to see you in not only the cinema, but also television and theater, and hopefully you'll be my guest for as you keep going out there, so we can keep showing. خیلی خیلی ممنونم از شما عزیزان و میدونم که امروز انگلیسی فارسی و خوشبختانه انگلیش حرف نزدیم، گهگداری انگلیسی حرف زدیم، گهگداری فارسی حرف زدیم. مرسی از اینکه با ما بودید. تا یکی دیگر از برنامه‌های ندای درون، روز شبتون خوش.